On this week's show, Warren talks sheds, Free talks cats, Ben talks demons, and I talk nonsense. On top of all of that, one lucky viewer will get the chance to win Warhammer Underworlds starter set from store.ontabletop.com. To be with the chance to win, all you need to do is like the video, pop a comment below, and if you can, share it around on social media, because it helps us out. Now sit back and relax, because the weekend starts now. Hello everybody, we're back for another fun-filled weekender. I'm joined by the delightful Warren.
Delightful now, am I?
Delightful,
Happy days.
Yeah, and
I'll take that.
And our lovely free and
Hiya.
half of the tasty boys, Ben.
We're 50% tasting. 50% tasting.
Oh dear.
And kicking things off this week, Warren wants to talk to us about the impressive thing men can do in sheds.
Yes,
Where's
right.
this come from, Warren?
Look, so on the Cult Radio on Wednesday night past, I was pitching something into the Cult of Games, which is the core inner circle supporters of the OnTableTop. Okay, we run this radio show with music and chat and all that crack on a Wednesday night in the Discord. And what had happened is at the weekend past, I discovered that in the village beside where we live, they have a thing that they've called a man shed. Okay? Now, let's get past the fact that it's called a man shed for the moment, okay? This is a bunch of retired old dudes that get together and basically they drink coffee and they turn wood on lathes, and it's amazing what they've done, okay? And they bring people in, men and women, and teach them how to do wood turning. They have built themselves a forge, a blacksmith's forge. So they have a proper woodwork shop with all the stuff in there. They have a forge and blacksmithy's thing with welders and anvils and
Whoa, that's cool.
heaty-uppy things and the likes. They have what they've built. They've also built a thing called a library of things. So the people within their community, if you need a lawnmower for a week, you go in and you can borrow a lawnmower for a week.
That's lovely.
If your kettle blows up, you can go in and you can borrow a kettle.
I was trying to think this was actually sounding a lot more like a cult, but now it just sounds nice.
It does,
It is
yeah.
nice. Well,
I don't know if
they
the
work
one...
with-
Sorry, I'm just going to say, I don't know if the one you have is connected with the
different
organization, but you can actually go to find a shed on mensheds.org and they're all, because there's one in Antrim as well, just down the road from me.
Well, if you scroll into the map and see if there's one in Clough-Mills, which is just above
Control and scroll.
Antrim. But anyway, while Jerry's browsing the map, okay, of the men's sheds. No, it's not on there.
No, yours is separate and distinct. Oh dear,
Yep.
what a shame.
It's an independent man shed.
It's an independent man shed, but for the rest of the UK, there are quite a few of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's the thing about it is I got chatting with them, and as I said, it's a bunch of retired old dudes that just wanted to make things and to try and help people. So they have lots of people on the autistic spectrum and stuff that they bring in, and they've just created this very relaxed environment and just lots of teaching and making and drinking cups of tea.
It's delightful.
And I thought it was lovely, and again, because I'd posted about this man shed in inverted commas, so that people would understand that I do understand it'll be people's shed, but not a man shed.
No.
I'm not going to preach to a bunch of old retired guys who are just trying to do nice things. It's like
No.
But it was lovely because as I was walking around the wood shop, there was this lovely little plaque that had been made by a group of the women that were in the place. Thank you, the chap's name, from all the girls in the women's shed. And it was it's just such a nice thing, right? Anyway, I brought this up in the radio show, and I was describing this concept, and I thought to myself, wouldn't this be nice if we could do something like this within our hobby, within our industry? A hobby sheds, a global network of little hobby sheds, little on your doorstep collectives of folk that get together and share tools, share resources. And the number one rule, to make it distinct, no games. No playing, no gaming. It's all about getting together to
I love that.
To craft together, to make together, to paint together, to build together. So it's kind of number one rule is no games. The other reason I like that rule in particular of no games is it means you need less space. You don't need a whole bunch of gaming tables. You literally can be a few dudes and dudettes that just meet up in a shed. And, and I just thought it could be a great way for some of the older hands who have maybe picked up a lot of equipment and bits and pieces over the years, if they were able to find a place that they could share that, so that other folk in the hobby that have maybe never tried an airbrush, Jerry, could go along and get access. Yeah. You get access to an airbrush, or get access to a 3D printer. If you're lucky, maybe even access to a wee laser cutter, or access to a bits box that has been built up over 30 years. So I have a forum topic that I have started on OTT, because we laughed, we giggled, we enjoyed the concept of the hobby shed, and a global hobby shed network where, it could be a case of, can you imagine we have little groups of hobby sheds all around the world, okay? And we meet up on Monday nights, okay, and we do our hobby shed stuff. But maybe from time to time on a Monday night, okay, we get Mel the Terrain Tutor, and we live stream Mel into all of those hobby sheds to give us a little crash course in how to make clump foliage out of dirty old sofas and the likes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So by having a global network of hobby sheds, we can flex, and we can combine resources and things like that. And so yeah, I said to on the radio, I said to the members, over the summer, through the weekender, I'm going to float this idea of a global network of hobby sheds with the wider community. There is a forum topic on OTT. If you're interested, okay, please get involved in that forum topic, and we will see if something like this has legs, where we can get together and make the world a better place, one shed at a time.
Shed at a time.
It wasn't just your way of inviting yourself around to Laughing Boy's house, then, so you can go and play.
You see, I expect him to fire up the London chapter. You see, pretty good. Makes sense.
Makes sense, yeah.
But yeah, look, this is a call out to the wider community. Come on over to that forum topic. It's in the just the main public part of OnTableTop.
I will put a link below for it.
Yeah, if you think that this could be something you're interested in, or something that you could help fire up in your area, like, these are not venues. This is not something where somebody should feel they have to travel an hour to. Okay, if you're having to travel an hour, it's not on your doorstep. So find people closer to you and fire up your own little hobby shed. See if there's maybe a community group or something will give you access to a room with some tables or bits and pieces. We can discover together ways and means of doing this, and try and advise each other as best we can. But yeah, no games.
Neat idea.
No games. It's all about just creating together.
I like it. Sounds like an interesting project for the summer.
That sounds great.
And we're not far away from the summer. In fact, we're only a few weeks away from spring ending, and that means the end of our Spring Clean Challenge.
Indeed.
Dun, dun, dun.
Lovely segue. Yeah.
I thought so.
Oh, I know. See what you did there, Jerry. I see
DJ Glue. So, for people who haven't been paying attention, from the end of March until the end of June, more or less, across the entirety of spring here in the British Isles, because I know obviously people in Australia and Upside Down Line will start complaining that it's the autumn or something. However, our spring, the only spring that matters, the one that I see outside of my window, we run the Spring Clean Challenge. And it is an opportunity for people to dig into that big pile of pride, dust off something that's been kicking around for a while and hasn't had much sort of traction on it, and then start a little project up and try and get something done. It doesn't have to be finished, doesn't have to be complete, doesn't have to be wonderful, but just try and get involved and get things done. And to help people along, we wave a little bundle of vouchers in front of them. So we've got 4 entry areas that people can go in for, which is the best idea, the best skill, the best tutorial, and the best junior member, or as I like to call them, Otter Pup.
Otter pups.
I just love that. I'm sorry.
And within that, you just, you push your projects away, you just tag it as a Spring Clean Challenge, and then we'll have a look at it. Now, we will be taking a little bit of a break for the next 2 weeks, which will be over the end of spring. So spring ends on the 20th/21st, depending on who you read on Google. But that means we'll be coming back on Friday the 25th, and we'll be announcing the winners there. So if you have a project and you're already involved, fantastic. If you haven't, it's still not over. Get in there. You never know your luck. But I've picked a few from the 200 odd entries that are currently in our project system. Just to show people some of the things that have been done in there. So Denzian has been doing a bit of Victorian sci-fi.
Very nice.
Started off heavily War of the Worlds and the invasion of London, including modelling up the streets and the red weed that you see on the lovely musical cover from everybody who remembers the War of the Worlds musical. But now he's decided to push on. London's
John
done.
Carter.
Yeah, London's done, and he's going to Mars. So this is the reciprocal attack of the British on Barsoom. And he's been going through and doing an extensive amount of work. This is a huge project.
Wow.
But I just really loved seeing from the initial beginnings of something. He does an awful lot of historical stuff. So he's done a lot of scarlet-coated British imperial troops before. But then just taking them and going, you know what happens if you go sci-fi? Magic happens. That's what happens. So, who doesn't want to see a Triceratops on Mars?
Dragon.
So it's a beautiful one. It's a great idea, and I love how it's come together. And I won't go through it all because we'd be here literally for the whole show. But it does start off with the tripods, which is gorgeous.
Incredible.
So that's an idea about idea.
Mm-hmm.
Here I have one of our pups, looking particularly happy.
I can't. My heart. It's too much.
and this is getting a 6-year-old kid involved, and it's a very short project at the moment. But what has been happening is a sort of variety of models from Super Dungeon Explorer.
Nice.
The Soda Pop range.
He picked out the models that he wanted to paint, which were these sets of sort of chibi wolves. And then over the course of the sort of entries, there have been different painting styles or techniques have been used. So this is an experiment with washes. Previous to that, we had base coats and dry brushing. So you can see it doesn't have to be massively complicated. It's all about getting involved and having a bit of fun when you're splashing stuff on. In fact, I'll open this one because I quite like how dry brushing and base coating is a bit neater than I was.
Dry brushing, a kid's favorite technique. Also my favorite technique.
It's a great way of getting younger people involved in the hobby.
Very nice.
And the like, and shows you don't need to be, knocking stuff out at a high level. Just hook them while they're young. It's it's a great way to go.
Well done, young pup.
Indeed.
This was, if memory serves, our first completed way back. And this was a little scenic diorama of a river horse knight, a la the company. I believe it was actually a Kickstarter exclusive thing from Riverhorse way back in the day, and that obviously seemed like a decade later. Now is the time to get it out and painted, and rather than just having it based up for a game, they decided to do this
awesome diorama.
Oh yeah, great diorama. So it would have been equally good to have the tiki on land and that river horse
coming out of the sea.
Out of the sea. Either way would have worked. But we've got this really nice basing done, including the sort of the UV lighting, or not UV lighting, the UV resin. There you can see it under the lights, to give you this sort of depth. And I'll throw up a couple of the finished images so you can see exactly just how spectacular it looks when complete.
Love it.
That's amazing.
And a really unique set
I
of...
love this one.
Good option for tutorial and skill, I'd say. That
yeah.
And this is the hard part comes down for us having to pick which goes into what category, because you don't have to worry about the categories you're working in. You just have to fire a project out there for us. But yep.
I can't wait to see what you pick.
Yeah. And lastly, in the truest sense of spring cleaning, we found some Oldhammer
classic Warhammer.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow,
some of these models have never made it to things like white metal or fine cast. They were only ever produced in lead. Gives you an idea of the sort of age you're dealing with on some of these.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I love those old models.
Yeah, and it shows how a bit of a spruce up and
I remember that guy.
Modern. That's Rutger. From the one of the campaign packs. Mm-hmm. It shows modern techniques being used on older miniatures can really sort of bring them up. Yeah. And that is possibly one of my favorite. One of the 7 remaining steam tanks with the commander chugging away. His heart's delight. So
awesome stuff.
Yeah, there is a wealth for people to go through. If you just want some inspiration, you can just go into the project system and check the little contest box for Spring Clean Hobby Challenge. You just bask in the madness that's in there already. And if you want to get in and try and win some of those vouchers, then you've still got a couple of weeks. Kick back, relax, break out some paints, and get stuck into that.
Very much so. Yeah.
Happy days.
So, shall we take a look at the indie of the week?
Can I do it?
God,
you can.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
It's been so
It's time for Indie of the Week.
We miss that every week. You're not here, Warren.
Do we miss it?
The echo perfects it as well.
Yeah.
That is true.
Right, who is our Indie of the Week this week?
So this week is something very, very new. So this is Snarling Badger Studios, which has been put together by YouTubers who I'm pretty sure everyone will be familiar with. Adam Loper of Tabletop Minion and Vince Venturello of Warhammer Weekly. Over the period of the pandemic, they decided, hey, wouldn't it be cool to make a game? And so make a game they did. And the game in question is very awesome and I'd say particularly metal. It's Reign in Hell, the demonic skirmish combat game.
I assume you picked this solely on the name of their collaborative studio.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Badger in there.
Everyone knows the way to my heart. But Reign in Hell is very cool. It's available either as a PDF or you can get it on print on demand, which is always awesome to see.
Nice.
But it is a skirmish combat game where you are diving into hell at the head of a cabal of demons that have various different allegiances to the different philosophies of hell. And you're going to be fighting to either reclaim hell and remake it in the image before it was destroyed and ruined, or maybe bring hell into a new light and do something different with it. You are going to be playing as entire warbands of demons, and the game is miniature agnostic. So you can pick up whatever demon miniatures you want from across the massive swathe of options that are available for the tabletop world and bring them together to create your own unique warbands. And yes, I think this one is looking particularly very nice. I say it's a skirmish game. So it's based on warbands and that kind of thing. In addition to that, there's like a whole campaign system built into this where you start off as a group of minions, and as you grow and expand, your demons get more powerful as you go, which is also very nice. You can also play it as one-off games as well, if you like to. And the actual rulebook itself is very, very well presented, has some really nice artwork throughout, some very good miniature photography, as you'll see as we go through. And the mechanics of it are very cool as well. There's some really interesting little tweaks here and there that have really sort of brought it to life for me. One of the things that I really like about this is the activation system in Reign of Hell. So in a lot of games, even if it's sort of like an alternative activation style game where you go back and forth, blah, 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 you know that the other person's going to get a go, right? In this game, for the number of demons you have in your warband, you have a set of D12 to match them. So if you had 6 demons, you got 6 D12. You will roll those D12, and that is the initiative in which you'll activate. So if your demons get, let's say, for example, 12, 10, 8, 6, 6, 4 or something like that, right? That's the way you'll activate, and you'll compare that against the set of dice that the opponent has rolled, and then you'll alternate as you go down through the list from 12 to 1, which I think is really, really cool. And it means that there's variance in the turns, but there's still lots of planning and tactical sort of nuance to what you're doing, which I think is really awesome. It's a little bit like the kind of dice in the bag mechanic, I guess, from like Warlord games, but with a little bit of a twist to it because you can always see what's coming up.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. So with Warlord's hand in the bag, you literally don't know between activations what's going to happen. This is interesting, actually, because strategically speaking, you'll be able to look at your dice, your opponent's dice, and start to make a judgment on how you're going to manage your activations. And
the cool thing is that the dice isn't locked to a particular figure. So say in turn 1 or whatever, you wanted to use your 12, that first dice, in order to activate one of your lesser demons and use them to do something very important on that first turn. You can do that. You're not restricted to going from the top all the way down to the bottom in terms of the demonic hierarchy of stuff on the table, which is really nice. The other really good thing about this is that the actual kind of like cut and thrust of gameplay is very quick. It's all D6 based, which is awesome. But it's just sort of roll. There's some neat tables set up where it's just like, bam, you've done damage, roll saves, that's it. The nuance comes in the way, the philosophies that your different demonic hordes take and how that affects gameplay. So you always have like this great demon lord that you always have at the top of the list for your army. And then under that, you'll have, I think they're called zealots or something, I think it is, where they are sort of like the true believers in your way of, defining hell. Devoted, that's it, yeah. They are like,
yes, master, we will make sure we do this.
In many ways, they're probably more into your philosophy than the actual guy in charge of your warband is, which is quite nice.
Deputy Prime Minister is always worse than Prime Minister.
They're the guy that hides behind your leader and goes, and stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, I really love that, the philosophies part, because you can see them there, that the idea behind it, I suppose we haven't really talked about why you're in hell. Well. Hell is a real place.
Yes.
And for years, they've been looking for souls. Souls are the currency and also the power that sort of defines hell. And this worked perfectly. It was a gorgeous, shining city in the night on this realm where everything worked like clockwork until one day a minor demon got trapped on Earth. And it was handed over to the mayor of the local town, who then handed over to the priest, who handed it over to the bishop, and it worked its way up. And then all of the religions and scientists on this version of Earth got together and went, we need to deal with these people. And they discovered that there was only one portal in and out of hell into Earth. And they sent a bucket load of people through, soldiers, priests, whatever they could find, didn't matter what denomination, and they went on a one-way suicide mission to blow up the portal. And that cataclysmic event shattered the portal. They knew they were never coming home. The hierarchy of hell was destroyed, and the world essentially collapsed into chaos. This is a post-apocalyptic hellscape.
Yes.
when hell breaks down, we all break down.
It's hell in hell.
And so you have these philosophies bridging that gap. Sorry, Free.
No. It's it was almost the plot of Little Nicky. Almost.
Yeah, it's very, very close. Only no pineapple and no.
No. Get in the flask.
But so we have these 6 philosophies, and you can see there you pick one, and it's a bit like Saga in that your leader doesn't cost you anything. I don't think the Devoted costs anything either. If you take it, there are specific types of demon, and they're mirrored. So the Lords of Hell will have a certain type of demon that are common. And so if you take the Devoted from the common type of demon that would be a Lord of Hell, he's free. I think if you take one of the ones from outside of that, then you pay for him. But otherwise you can have your free leader and free lieutenant. And then after that, you're just paying for the actual minions who flock to you, and you have people looking to restore hell to its glory days, or people looking to get out of this terrible, terrible hole, or the empty. So nihilists. If anybody's a fan of Dogma, the demon who wants to just destroy all of creation because he doesn't want to be in hell anymore, there's a faction like that. Burn it all down. I don't want to exist. Every time I die, I come back to hell. This is hell. So you have these factions within there as well, which is a really interesting way of doing it, and gives you a very flavorful way to build your warband. So not every group of demons is the same group of demons attempting to pineappleize Hitler.
I think it's the judges that I was particularly drawn to, because they have they are very much the arbiters of the law in hell. And they can decide what the law is from any regard. So they can be like, no, this is what will happen this turn. And they can level things out if things are going in, not in their favor, which I think is really nice. So some really awesome things in there. There's lots of different sort of tweaks and variables that you can get between them. And then there's certain things that each of the devout can use in terms of spells almost, and that kind of thing as well, which is really cool. But then the core of the game is baked into that sort of that war between those different factions. And then, as I say, you can play it as a one-off game, but you can also sort of build it up to play it as more of a campaign, which I think is the way that I would imagine Loper Adventurer would prefer you to see play this game, which is really awesome. Because you all start off with a number of souls to spend, and you will sort of buy your sort of little tiny warband of minor minion demons, and then as you go up, they'll sort of grow bigger and stronger and warp and change. So it really means that if you're diving into this from a hobby point of view, you've got some really awesome things you could do with that, because you maybe start off with a bunch of bloodletters from Games Workshop or something, and then as you go sort of chop and break their horns off, give them different weapons, add cloaks and all sorts of different things to them as they were going, as they become more and more powerful demons and stuff. The other really nice thing about it is that, at least from what I read anyway, in terms of the campaign structure, your demons never die. Instead, they become sort of scarred and twisted and broken, so their stat lines will change, but you'll never lose figures. Okay. As a demon, you can kind of expel them from, they say expel. They basically mean your demon lord basically kills them and reaps their souls back. But then you can then spend their souls on other ones if you want to. But I love the idea that you can have this wizened, broken, twisted demon that's part of your warband that has been there since the start, and he's always getting beaten up, but he's always there to go and drag the treasure and the souls away or something on the table while everyone else does the killing and stuff, which I think is really neat.
And the fact that everything is soul connected is interesting as well, because they have a mechanic where when a demon is banished or essentially killed, let's just call it killed for the sake of the game. If somebody's within 3 inches, then they can reap their souls, and the souls essentially become rerolls for you. So you don't want to be picking up, there's none of the sniping nonsense. You don't want to be picking people off from a distance. You do want to be trying to stay up close and personal when you have a chance to kill, because then you're harvesting your enemy's power and then turning it back against them. And that's sort of reflected in the rules, because we're saying they're very light as far as combat mechanics go. It is just if my combat is higher than yours, I hit you on a 2. If it's equal, we hit on a 3. And if it's lower, then I hit you on a 4. So it is that sort of simple. But you don't have to, it's not I go into base to base and then we stay there swinging swords at each other until somebody falls over. You can do a hit and run, where you make your attack at any point along your movement. So if you've got 6-inch move and somebody's 2 inches away, you can run an inch attack and then run 5 inches past them and just sort of slice a bit off.
Skitter away into the darkness.
Or if you're standing toe-to-toe, then you get a bonus for your attack and defense of +1. Or if you just want to do a lot of damage, you can charge in, finish your turn close to them, and then you get a bonus to just your attack. But if you were halted, then, if your opponent was halted, then they obviously can counter that. And within all of this, they've got the various sort of, as you can see here, the play areas, the shrines and crags and lava pits that all add. So it's a very, the book itself is less than 70 pages, but there's a substantial amount of...
Oh, yeah, there's loads of scenarios and stuff at the back.
Yeah, I think there's like 10 scenarios, and then there's obviously all of the themed terrain. So it's not just a static landscape around you. It's very interactive with the various types. It's not just hill, water feature, whatever.
The other thing as well, you're talking about terrain and table space. They actually say that you can play this on very, very small tables if you want, so like 2x2 or something if you really want to, that kind of thing.
I think it's I want to say Warcry, although I'm not GW enough to know. It's 22 inches by 30 inches. It's whatever the GW board game size is the recommended size. So I think you're expecting to see people come across. So you're literally playing on half of a table essentially. So you've got plenty of room there.
Yeah. So it's very much designed to be an awesome hobby project because you're building your own demonic forces. Yeah. But also a quick and easy to dive into game that has lots of interesting mechanics and different philosophies and stuff to dive into and play around with. And then, as you say, take it into that campaign as well and sort of play on from there, which is really cool. So, yeah, it's a very, very interesting project from Snarling Badger. And it seems like it'll be the first one of many, perhaps, from Loper and Ventru.
I hope so. I've got to say, I'm really loving that backstory that Jerry explained. I think that's really cool. I want to delve into this and learn more about that.
I really like the idea of building your army from ground upwards and being completely immersed in the game from the beginning. That's what I like, because
campaign
your
games are the way forward.
Yeah.
and as far as figure count goes, you're maxed out at 10 figures for a cabal.
Okay.
So you've got your warlord and his lieutenant, and then up to, depending on the size of the game you're playing or whether or not you've lost some people or had to replace them, up to 8 minions to scuttle around with you and drag people back and forward for you. So it's not a big sink for miniatures either, and it makes a lot of sense when you're playing on such a small area. You don't want to end up being flooded. You don't want somebody just spamming tons of cheap imps on the grounds that they'll get the activations off because they're rolling handfuls of dice. So being limited to sort of 10 aside max, then you've got
looking
the
at
room to explore
Skaven players in more time there.
Exactly. So there's an awful lot to explore there with Rain and
Very
Hell.
much so. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So, diving into the news, to begin with, we are looking at some stuff for Bolt Action from the folks at Warlord Games. They have a bunch of pre-orders going up this weekend for some new Allied and Axis miniatures for Bolt Action, their World War II tabletop game. So we start off with a little bit of a preview of what's coming up on the Commando front, which I'm sure will excite Warren and his San Nazir love. But they're going to be doing a new plastic set, some of the examples you can see there, for a British and inter-allied Commandos set. So it's going to cover not just your standard British soldiers as part of the Commandos, but also all of the allied forces from across Europe that joined together with them on their daring missions behind enemy lines, and for example at San Nazir as well. As you can see, there's a look at the plastic sprue there, and there are lots and lots of options on it, allowing you to make very bespoke characters to use for the different nationalities and stuff that fought alongside us as we took on the Nazis. So yeah, very awesome indeed. In addition to that plastic set, we're also going to get a bunch of additional stuff for the Allies. So we've got the M8 Scott HMC that you can see there, which is a new tank. I'm sure somewhere John is exploding with information that he could share on the show, but alas, he is not here. So I will bumble through it. Apparently, this tank was pretty well used by the Americans during the war, and of course the rest of the Allies. And it actually saw service beyond the end of World War II as well. So you would have seen it in Vietnam as well, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, a very cool looking tank there. Very dinky, but very nice. Then we have the British Army 5.5 inch medium howitzer. Booyah. Looking very, very cool. Yes.
Literally. Boom.
Stick those at the back of your army and shell the opponent out of their houses. Seems like the best way forward for that, I think. Very nice little kit there. We've also got the M6 Fargo 37mm GMC. So this was one of the first attempts by the US to build a tank destroyer because they decided, why don't we just take a massive gun, stick it on the back of a Jeep, make sure the suspension's all in order, and use that to take out tanks. It's a lot easier than trying to build an entire anti-tank vehicle in of itself, really. So yes, this was used to great effect, driving around the countryside, blowing things up, and it saw action in Europe, in sort of Normandy, and also down in places like Tunisia and Italy as well, which is very cool. And then to cap things off, we have a Panzer Lehr squad, which is one of the more veteran units within the German army. They fought all over the place as well. And that sort of matches up with the different sets that we've got here for the Allies. So if you want to put together a badass squad of Germans to go hunting down Allied tanks, then you can do so with this. All of these are going to be available from this weekend over on the Warlord website. And of course, we'll also have pre-orders and stuff up on the OnTableTop store as well, because we have a bunch of bolt action there if you want to go and check it out. So yeah, very nice.
Well, on to me, not quite just in deep. I'm going on to the Cold War. So if you consider yourself quite the secret agent, there's certainly a game out there for you to wrap your head around. So Vienna Connection's now been released for retail by Portal Games. They've really put their brains into this one. So if you're looking for something that's going to keep you up and about at your next game night, this is definitely one for you. For me, I find it quite frustrating. Not frustrating. I love sitting down and playing a board game on my games nights, but this is a lot more immersive. So 1 to 5 players will take control of their own CIA team of agents, and you conduct missions during the Cold War. So players need to search through clues throughout European cities, and they're tasked with top secret missions that are based on the unfolding events within the 1970s. So the game is not all about you secreting the mission and flying through it. The game's going to fight back as well. So players are going to need to outsmart and take down rival Soviet agents and crack the case and succeed in their missions as well. So
very cool.
If you're like me and you love a story that's built into a game, you're going to want to give this a look, because it really does throw players straight into the action in the true events that unfolded during the Cold War. So it's a collaborative event. So you and your teammates are going to need to put your heads together to crack the case, or several cases. You need to look at clues, evidence, decipher hidden messages. And personally, I read a lot, and I like to bury myself in spy novels, so I can imagine myself really stepping up to play in this one. You know, I'll bring a monocle in and everything. I feel like it'll work. So it's just an experience. So do you remember a couple of weeks back we had the Cubicle 7 escape rooms? So kind of similar in a way. So we spoke about that on the Weekender a couple of weeks ago. So it's recommended that you can play this twice. However, the twists and turns will be probably most effective the first time around. So it's a really great one for you all to put your money in and get it together, rather than just one person buy it if you want an experience on your game night. But it's not just one games night sitting, which is great. So the missions take roughly about 3 hours, give or take, and the whole campaign itself takes 15 hours altogether. So this can be a running thing to do over a course of several games night, depending how efficient you and your teammates are, really depending. See how quick you can get through it. But it's available for you to pick up online, and a vast range of FLGSs. So if you're looking for a cooperative experience coming out of lockdown, then this idea will keep you and your friends' brains ticking for sure at games night.
Sounds very cool. As someone who really, really likes Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective, this seems like a nice step up. So you've got like those escape room games and stuff from Cosmos, and then you've got this stuff here from Portal Games, which sounds really nice as well. Looking forward to diving in and giving it a go. Sounds very, very cool.
I just this week finished rewatching Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
And this is essentially that, but from the US CIA point of view. So
very cool.
Excellent stuff. You break out your best Alec Guinness impersonation and get cracking.
I'm going to get a good coat for it with the big high collar. That's the way forward.
Yeah, it's all right. Just look mysterious in the corner.
Yeah.
So who's up next then?
Yeah, so next we're moving on to the folks from TTCombat who have been building on their range of miniatures for Carnevale. So the Rashaar, who are your very, very Lovecraftian horror-based faction within the game, have got some new releases all separately available now. So you've got the Magi Rashaar, who is your powerful spellcaster that you can use to lead your forces on the tabletop. Very, very awesome indeed. Love that kind of coral style staff that he has in his hand. Very nice. Up the fork there. Very kind of Cthulhu, which is nice. You've also got the lesser Ugdru, I'm going to say, who are your sort of heavy hitters in a game. Apparently, as part of the Rashaar, these are almost equal in sort of deadliness to heroes from other factions. So if you're looking for some very interesting heavy hitters, and you've got those to play around with. You've also got
it looks like he's smiling, the guy.
Yeah.
They're happy in their work.
Yeah.
It's because he's just gone, food, and there's someone in front of him. Yeah. You've also got the Agleopes, who are very, very strange looking. When I first saw these, I immediately thought, a Doctor Who villain. But these are actually minor spellcasters within the Rashaar. So if you're looking to combine these with the likes of the Magi that we saw earlier, then that will give you a bunch of really awesome looking spellcasters for your warband on the tabletop. And then to sort of cap things off, we've got the Rashaar slaves, or how I should say, these are, I guess you'd call them sort of like takeaway food, because there's all those monsters as part of the Rashaar. These are the snacks that they eat. So if your monsters are in need a little bit of food, then you just trot one of these out in front of it, and it will gobble it up whole and be renewed for more fighting on the tabletop. Talking of big monsters that need feeding, there's also the Morgrar, which is this amazingly huge miniature that you see here.
Wow.
Obviously, Carnevale is a 32mm game anyway. This thing stands up to 50mm, maybe even 60 in height. This one, pretty impressive. And it's shown sort of destroying the town around it, which is very cool. The idea of this is that it's effectively a warband in of itself. And it's mostly going to be used in big monster scenarios. So maybe your two warbands are fighting on the streets of Venice, and then this thing erupts from under the ground and pulls itself out of the canal. And suddenly both your warbands are either running away from it or trying to combine together to try and take it down, which I think would be really fun to dive into. A really cool looking monster, covered in all kinds of gribbly bits, and I bet you could do a really nice thing with that with kind of like slime effects and things as well. Very cool.
Also very handy for the beast scenario in Reign in Hell.
Yeah, yes.
Where you need a giant beast between the two warbands to slap each other around.
Paint it red.
Exactly. Red equals hell. There we go. Hell and go faster. There you go. Depending on if you're an orc or not.
A terrific set of deep ones, and they're traveling food there.
Exactly.
Love them.
Yeah, from monstrosity to tranquility from me. If you are a fan of calming and soothing board games, the sequel to the successful Tranquility card game is heading to our tabletops by the end of the year. So with the upcoming title Tranquility Ascent. So the last game was based in the sea, and you would have to get yourself home, yourself and your teammates. But this time, mountain players will be promised a brand new environment to draft cards and conquer a new mountain. So it might not be as peaceful as you'll think. The game is called Tranquility, but players must play the game in absolute silence. So anticipating each move for success. So myself, when I played the first game with my partner, I just gave him serious daggers the whole time. Just don't do that the whole time, because he was making stupid decisions. And when one person loses, you all lose. So I just, the whole time. So I can't control my facial expressions very well. I do try. But players will be tasked with trials of ascending a mountain, starting from the base and continuously making up as a cooperative team. So they need to complete the grid of cards, just like you saw there, without running out of cards to achieve the game. So instead of guiding a ship, you need to reach the top of the mountain carefully and strategically plot the cards to achieve the goal. So as the communication lacks, you're going to need to make sure that you're making the best decision for the team and anticipating what they could do as well on the next move. Because as I said, if you lose, if they lose, everybody lose, restart. Not going to happen. So there's 3 expansions included in the game too. So if you wanted an easy start, the base game will give you justice, but the expansions include different kind of aspects of photography, tactical pathing, and lots of grass to make your journey up to the peak a lot more difficult. So there's no release just yet, but I am anticipating the new atmosphere in the Ascent.
Right.
I like how those boxes have managed to get up there already.
Oh, I know. Made it. They've played the game. Yeah.
I've played a game which has like a science mechanic in it called The Mind, which is really good. It's a very simple card game where there's just like a set of 50 cards, I think it is, maybe a little bit more than that. Yep. And the whole idea is that you basically just have to play the cards in ascending order or descending, I can't remember which one it is, until you've run out of them. But you cannot talk to the other players at the table. So you just have to try and guess. So you're sitting there, I've got a 5, and you're like, have they got a 4? And that was an absolute sort of like scrambler when it came to sort of like working out exactly what I had to do. So adding in more mechanics to something like that, I think is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Yeah. I love the premise of this, and I would definitely want to give it a go. It seems like the kind of thing that would be really fun to play with people you didn't know at an event. Yeah. I think because you wouldn't be able to read the meta of other people. You just have to go, this randomer, are they going to help me? Are they going to shaft me?
It's very good. And at no point would you have to worry about Justin attempting to teach you sign language for the table. So I imagine that's the first thing that I'd think of. It's like, can't speak, you say. I've downloaded an app.
Yeah. It would just turn into a game of charades, I think. It'd just be like, it would. But it looks like a lot of fun. And I love the concept that you have to play in silence. I do. And I think it just changes such a simple card game into something just deeper and a lot more fun as well.
And also a gift to parents everywhere, I imagine. We're all going to play a game. We're going to play Tranquility. Remember, you can't talk. If you talk, you lose.
Nifty stuff. Yeah. Next, we move on to some stuff from Games Workshop. So last weekend, I'm sure some of you already seen, but if you missed out on it, they have their new launch box coming out for Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, or as they have hashtagged it, New AOS. I don't know what they're going to do next time. Newer AOS, maybe. But
new.
Age of Sigmar Dominion is effectively the Indomitus box of Age of Sigmar in the Mortal Realms, and it's going to come with 2 full factions for you to play out your games. However, it's not a starter set, just so you're aware. There are going to be other ones in the future. We've got a neat cinematic trailer which showed off the Stormcast Eternals heading into the realm of Gur to try and take out the new Kruleboyz, which we'll look at later. But it also sort of highlighted some very interesting questions for me, which I'll get to later. And I'll come to those as we see the miniatures and stuff. But very cool trailer. Nice to see them doing more stuff like this. Obviously, we had the one for 40k as well back when that new edition launched. So maybe they're going to expand on this and turn it into more than just the cinematic you see here, turn it into a bigger short, perhaps for Warhammer Plus in the future. We shall see.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, the Kruleboyz you see there are going to be facing off against the Stormcast Eternals. So let's go through what's in the box for the boys in gold. We have Indrasta, who we've seen before, the Celestial Spear. She is the new angelic leader for the Age of Sigmar and the Stormcast Eternals. She is Sigmar's monster hunter with that massive spear that you see there, descending from on high with those amazing angelic wings. Very cool looking miniature, wearing the new style armor that's been forged by Grungni, his buddy and pal from the world that was, who's still in the Mortal Realms. Very cool indeed. Shame for Grimnir, who's been shattered into a million pieces, but happens to the best of us. We also have a couple of additional characters for the Stormcast Eternals. So we have the Lord Imperatant with Griffhound that you see here, which was represented in the cinematic. Now they are masters of tactics, and they have been designed to sort of take command of Sigmar's legions once again and lead them on the tabletop to do battle against the Kruleboyz and such. I say they are masters of tactics. However, in the cinematic, that guy basically bellowed at a Kruleboy and then got shot in the chest. So I'm not entirely sure how tactical he is. We also have some cool miniatures in the form of the Knight Arcanum. I should say that a lot of these will both have variants which have both helmeted and unhelmeted heads for the different characters. So very cool stuff there. The Knight Arcanum looking very interesting. Love the look of it. Very cool style. Nice to see robes and stuff over the top of the armor. I think it breaks up the silhouette a little bit more, adds a bit more sort of like pizzazz to them, which is really nice to see, rather than just being sort of like carbon copy style faceless warriors effectively on the battlefield. Very nice. We also have the Knight Vixilior with the banner of Apotheosis. See, I can say these names, but I can't say realistic historical names. So this is one of the leaders that is going to be marching into battle alongside the Stormcast Eternals with an amazingly big banner. I think big banners are coming back.
Big banners are in, guys. Yeah.
I'd point out that banner's so big they've hinged the flaps on the end of it
for extra wavy. So this has actually got a slither of the Anvil of Apotheosis, which is used to reforge the Stormcast Eternals built into it. So it's a good way for the Stormcast Eternals to be anchored into the mortal realms and not just be banished by all the misdeeds of Be'lakor within the Age of Sigmar. We also have some new miniatures that are going to be there, as sort of like your rank and file. We have the Praetors that you see there. So they are newly armored Stormcast Eternals, getting that sort of like Greco-Roman look going across them, which is very nice. Armed with massive halberds. A little bit of kind of like a Vatican style thing going on with them, I think, which is really cool. Really awesome looking miniatures there. Again, you can see some helmeted and unhelmeted heads. I should point out all of the miniatures that you're seeing here are going to be push fit, although that isn't necessarily how they're going to be when the actual boxes come out later on down the line. But it's basically just to make sure that everyone can put them together and get them started very quickly. You also have the Annihilators. So these are your big tank boys. They are going to be stomping into battle with their massive storm shields and those amazing looking hammers with the thunder and lightning of Sigmar crackling through them. I see these as basically your frontline troops smashing their way through whatever stands in their way and delivering Sigmar's justice. They do a lot of mortal wounds, as I'm sure you can guess from their weaponry there.
Ben, I know that you have, as amazing as these look, but you have honestly, ever since you've said about putting two googly eyes on things, I can't look at them any different now.
Put two googly eyes just here. And they're good to go.
Can't unsee it.
We also, that's why I'm going to paint them grimdark, so you can get past that, you see. We also have the Vindictors, who are your new rank and file troops for the Stormcast Eternals. Just to allay anyone's concerns if they have Stormcast Eternal armies, these are not replacing all of the existing models. They are just an additional unit for you to choose from. Don't worry. They're not being Primaris. In fact, they're getting smaller, but there you go. So yeah, very awesome looking unit there with some really nice looking armor. All of them will be available with helmeted and unhelmeted options, and you've also got different body types in there as well. So you've got bigger and smaller individuals, as well as male and female chests as well, which is neat. Not included in this box, but also coming out for the Stormcast Eternals in the coming weeks, we also have two new additions. So you've got the Knight Judicator with Griff Hounds there, as you can see. So it's going to be up in the weeks or 2 weeks after the release of Dominion, sort of probably more towards the actual release of the full edition, I would imagine. Looking very cool, comes with a big ass bow. I love bowmen in games.
Very cool.
The Griff Hounds have also been given a badass upgrade as well. I think they look a lot more vicious and deadly, which is nice to see. And then for those of you who weren't content with the way that they've been going down this kind of like Greco-Roman route, you also have this really cool Stormstrike chariot as well.
That's cool.
So yeah, drawn by two massive Griff. I think they're called, I can't remember what they're actually called now.
They were called demigriffs.
Demigriffs, that's what they are.
They still are.
They are still demigriffs. So yes, being pulled along by demigriffs, and you can arm the rider on the right-hand side of that with either the axe or a spear, if you wish. So some options in that kit.
Oh, I would go spear.
Oh yeah,
every
spear.
time.
Not a chariot,
Yeah, you'd have to.
Yeah. You can recreate the gladiator scene, but with Stormcast Eternals going up against a band of bedraggled Chaos Warriors, because they're the real good guys, right? You also have the new look Kruleboyz. So these are orcs, but not orcs, and slightly more like hobgoblins, but not really hobgoblins, because we can't call them hobgoblins. So these are led by the killer boss on Great Gnashtooth, which is a pretty badass looking miniature you see there. Now, the whole thing behind the Kruleboyz, and we can kind of just go through these models as I'm talking, because there's quite a lot of them again, is that they all dwell within the realm of Gur, and they are slightly different from other orcs in so much as the Iron Jaws and stuff that you've seen previous to this very much venerate Gork. So they're all about getting in and smashing people in the face, and there's very little subtlety to how they act. These orcs, or Aurochs, I should say, are slightly more aligned with Morg. So they like to do the sneaky stabbings, a little bit like the goblins that we know and love from Warhammer. And so these have come together as a very cool looking army that's got some really nice sort of aesthetics going on with them. I think it's good to see, and this is something we've talked about in the past, Warren, orcs that actually look like they want to kill you, which I think is really cool. Throughout the range. And
you might say, if they're followers of Morg, that they're completely brand new.
God.
Hey. One step away from the rainbow bracers there, mate.
I had to get it in, dude.
I also like there's some really nice callbacks to kind of classic stuff from Warhammer. So you see the shields that they have there. Yes. They're reminiscent of old orc shields, which used to have the big red face or yellow face painted on them, which is
big
really
evil
nice
sun.
to see. Yeah. So you've got a whole bunch of characters just going through their names as Jerry's showing you something. But you've got things like the Swamp Caller Shaman with the Pot Grot, the Killer Boss with the Stab Grot, the Merc Knob with Belcher Banner, some fascinating names here, the Gut Rippers, which we've just seen, and these Man Skewer Bolt Boys that are looking very, very cool. Very much a kind of Peter Jackson Hobbit orc style look to them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these could very much be Azog.
They could, yeah.
Yeah, which is very interesting. You've also got these, and these are my favorite of the set. So these are the Hobgrot Slitters, hobgoblins, which have been called to fight for the Kruleboyz in the swamps of Gur. But interestingly, right, if you notice their armor style, it's very different from the rest of the armor that you can see on the other Kruleboyz. Mm-hmm. And they also have those little grenades. That's because, and I'm sure Warhammer fans have already worked out exactly who their patron might be, they are gifted these things by a strange dark force within the world, Chaos Dwarves, who have given them these very, very awesome looking pieces of kit to use in their games. So everybody's thinking we're hopefully going to see some Chaos Duardin, as they're now called, in the future. Mm-hmm. Have been hinted at in the lore, so they do exist. You've also got some more releases that are going to be coming out after the release of Dominion. Oh God, I got to take a breath. This is like Ace Ventura. So you've got the Beast Skewer Killbow, which is just a bigger version of the one we saw from the Bolt Boys, looking very cool. Operated by 2 Grots there. And then, and this guy is awesome, got the Breaker Boss on the Maya Brute Troggoth. So I really liked the redesign of the Troggoths that they did, sort of building on what the old stone trolls used to look like. This is one of the big sort of swamp-dwelling Troggoths. I love the look of this guy. It looks really awesome. That wicked gut plate that he's got with that leering face is really neat. And also, I love that they've put a cushion on his back so that the big rod that the sort of rider is on doesn't hurt him too much. Oh. It is the whole tree.
It is a tree.
But yes, so that gives you a look at what's inside the Dominion box for both the Stormcast Tales and the Kruleboyz, and what's also coming up next. As I say, this is going to be a launch box, so this is going to come with the core rulebook, which will have a limited edition cover featuring Indrasta smashing down through the realms to defeat all her chaos foes. You also get all of the war scrolls that you need, and the War at Amberstone Watch sort of booklet that will allow you to play out scenarios based around these 2 forces and their opening storyline within the realm of the realm of Gur and the Mortal Realms.
May I just predict right now that that is a box that is going to sell out?
Oh, without a doubt.
Now, I totally agree. However, they did bring up on their live stream that they have and they've said this on the record now, we've made more than enough. I will wait and see, Games Workshop.
I don't believe it.
Wait and see.
I don't believe it.
Didn't they say that about the Cursed City?
Yes, they did. As I hide mine behind me. But they also have a new book coming out. So, sorry, there's the core rulebook there. You can see with the nice new artwork on the front of it. Looking a lot more grimdark, which is awesome to see. Sort of bringing Age of Sigmar more in line with sort of like the aesthetic you've seen in some of the older Warhammer art, that kind of thing. There's the booklet and stuff. But you're also going to have a new book coming out, which is called Dominion, which is by Darius Hinks, who's a really good writer. I've read some of his new Gotrek and Malaneth, not Felix. I nearly slipped up there. Gotrek and Malaneth books, which are very, very good. He's going to be writing the book that will start everything off when it comes to the storyline of the next edition of Age of Sigmar.
Ben.
Blimey, that's a lot.
Well done, Ben.
Do you want to take a moment and relax, have a bit of a rest, a bit of a breather? What I will say is, it's unusual that they've gone for this set of orcs, orcs, hobgoblins, whatever you want to call them. because they've just recently done a new set of orc boys for 40k, the boar-looking ones.
Beast snaggers, yeah.
And they look pretty much like the old-style lantern-jawed orcs. And then they've come out with these. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at them going, they would make really nice design, really nice aesthetic for a new range of 40k orcs.
Yes.
But clearly they've decided not to go that way. They're sticking with what they already have, lantern-jawed, as far as the eye can see, and heads you could rest a pint glass on. But I mean, just look at those there.
I think they look great.
They're so much more
really
characterful
cool
and realistic looking that I think a lot of people
I agree.
would happily kill to get those with shooters. And hell, you've already got stick bomber grots there.
Yeah, you have.
And you will see those on the table replacing stick bomber grots.
I'm sure some people who are very good at converting or just have a lot of guns lying around are going to do something with them.
Oh, yeah.
You just know already that they're Cockney, don't you? You just know.
Oh, yeah.
Every orc has to be. So lots of stuff coming up for this. I will say they're going to be coming back and doing a lot more stuff in the coming weeks, looking ahead to its release. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of the different things they've got lined up for Age of Sigmar 3rd edition. I was watching some stuff on the rules. They made the bold claim that is the most tight and effective and cool set of rules that they've ever done for Age of Sigmar. Admittedly, they've only done 2 so far. But certainly sounds interesting, and a lot of people who are heavily into the kind of rules element of the game have said so far from what they've seen that it's pretty good. So if you're interested in Age of Sigmar, go and check that out. And if you want to get a little bit of a toe dip into Age of Sigmar, of course, we're giving away the Warhammer Underworlds 2-player starter set with this show. So bing, 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 comment down below. Tell us what you think.
Absolutely.
But moving away from the Mortal Realms, because, of course, there's some more Grimdark news, I'm going to kind of breeze past this because we've been talking about Games Workshop for a while now, and also we've seen all these miniatures anyway. Yeah. But there's some new stuff coming up for pre-order this weekend for the Adepta Sororitas. So, finally, and perhaps heralding a new edition of Warhammer 40,000 if the portents are to be are true. They're not. It's just a meme on the internet. But anyway, the Adepta Sororitas Sisters of Battle are getting themselves a new codex, as you can see there. Going to have both the limited edition and the standard version of the codex. Going to come with everything that you would expect from a Warhammer 40,000 codex, including lore, rules, updates, stratagems, all that kind of thing. You've also got the new models. So you've got Morven Val, who is the latest addition to the High Lords of Terror, put there by Rupert Gulliman himself to sort of change things up and shake things up within the High Lords. But she decided to take to the battle more often than not, which is pretty cool, keeping up with her regular day job before she became a High Lord. Rocking one of the slightly more bespoke-looking Paragon war suits, of which you see some there, which are the new sort of elite troops for you to add into your Battle Sisters army. And then capping things off as well, we've also got the Celestian Sacrosancts, which are kind of like your elite badass warrior nuns who are very much bodyguards for their leaders. So you can see they've got those really awesome sort of like coffin-style shields, got bolt pistols hidden behind them, which I think is a neat little addition to them sort of aesthetically. And they can either be armed with those sort of power mauls that you see there, or you can have them with big halberds as well, which I think actually look a lot better, in my opinion. There's also, I think there's another miniature for the Dogmata, not pictured here, that's also going to be available this week. And if you're very, 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 very lucky, by which I mean you manage to make sure you're in the shop and out of it within 30 seconds, you'll also be able to get these things. So there you go.
Good luck, Skipper.
Have fun. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of stuff coming out for Age of Sigmar and Warhammer 40,000. Some of it in the near future, some of it in the here and now. So yes, very cool. Ooh,
I mean, well done, Ben.
Yeah.
Well done.
We're all breathless with anticipation. Ben is just breathless. Alrighty then, we're back and we're going to be taking a look at what's interesting in the world of 3D printing. And what have you found for us today, Benjamino?
Well, we're looking back at Raging Heroes and their Patreon for June today because they are continuing their trend. They have done the ancient world of Greece and they've done Egypt. So what's the next pantheon to look at?
Rome.
Well, no, because That's all stolen stuff, Jerry.
Throw me a curveball. I was sure we were staying in the Med for all of this.
Oh, yeah.
They are headed up into the north, and they have done gods and heroes of Viking Norse mythology.
I love
Very,
Norse
very
mythology.
cool. So they have a new trailer out which showed off all the new miniatures that are available right now over on their Patreon. As is the case with all of these, they are 3D printable STL files. So these are not physical miniatures. You get the files, you print them off at home, and they turn out hopefully looking just as nice as these.
It's a beautiful dream.
Yeah, as is the case with a lot of the stuff they've done previous to this, they have a bunch of really epic looking models. So you've got plenty of the Norse pantheon for both the Azir and the Vanir. So you've got things like Odin, Thor, Heimdall, Loki, Frey, etc. I mean, look how amazing Odin looks there. That's so cool. Oh man,
wow,
that's brilliant.
Thor looks incredible. There's Loki.
Screw Chris Hemsworth's arms that you've been showing off on social media. That's amazing. But you've also then got loads of sort of troops and monsters and everything that they've thrown into the mix as well. So they've done a whole range of things like big trolls and wolves and Norse warriors, berserkers, sort of standard fellows with their they've put a sword through the face again as well. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, very cool. You've got your Valkyries and everything as well, and then of course there's always a massive there's always a centerpiece when it comes to these big projects. So in this case, it's here you go. They've done. Yes, they've done Odin's Hall in Valhalla, as you can see there, with those amazing swords that I really hope...
Stolen from Norway.
Yes, stolen from Norway, and that a massive... isn't it for the brothers of, or the sons of Ragnar. Or something? Yeah. But I really hope those swords have the tips on them as well, if you want them, so you can actually just print yourself a big sword. That'd be nice. But a very, very cool looking Viking hall there, alongside the huge ship, and then all of the gods and things like that. What you see here is available as part of their kind of like basic pledge. When I say basic, there's quite a lot in it, but they will be releasing their Overlord pledge later on down the line during this month as well, which will come with even more. So here is a look in glorious high definition at a bunch of the miniatures that we see, and as you can see here, they look fantastic.
Yeah.
Set of sculpts, wow.
Yeah. Raging Heroes have been knocking it out of the park when it comes to miniatures of late. I really liked their Greek stuff. I thought the Egyptian stuff was amazing. I loved all the little nods to like adventure movies. So you had like Brendan Fraser from The Mummy and stuff, and Lara Croft in there as well, which is always nice to see. But then you've got these which really delve into the depth and nuance of Norse mythology and put together loads of fascinating miniatures for you to use in massive armies, board games, skirmish games, whatever you want to, really.
I'm hoping to see bunnies.
That would be nice.
I'm always hoping to see bunnies.
One of the female gods, I can't remember which one, has a chariot pulled by bunnies in Norse mythology.
That'll be Jessica, won't it?
Close.
Oh god!
Best not to engage.
For example,
that.
Yeah. So that ship is the one that I think it's made out of nails, isn't it?
That's beautiful.
Of the dead.
Of the dead, yeah.
Yeah. So it resides in hell and will breach the realms during Ragnarok.
Gorgeous.
Very awesomely made. But yeah. Absolutely awesome looking Fenrir as well. Yeah, it's amazing stuff. But yeah, hopefully we'll see some of the troops. Yes, here we go. See some of the troops. Like, I love these. I don't think they'd work because of how dynamic they are in kind of like a rank and file style game, unless you were doing something like Kings of War where you make sort of a diorama out of your units. But I think they would be amazing in a skirmish game because each of them would feel like a badass individual that you could use.
Take Saga, for example. Yeah.
Take Saga, for example. Yeah.
Please do.
Yeah. There you go. That's all of it together.
Just look at that.
Yeah.
Good grief. Especially frightening whenever you realize that, those miniatures at the base are going to be sort of human sized, and then you've got gods tower above them, and then the buildings are just monumental.
Yeah, there is a game, I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, where you played as the new Norse gods because all the other gods were dead, and you were playing as the. We looked at it in like a review.
It's not
and stuff.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, is it Ragnarok? I think it might be Ragnarok. Yes, the heavy metal Viking combat game. Yeah, where you were playing as the new gods, where you were basically like, no, I'm going to grow to become one of the Azir or the Vanir and kick ass and take names. These miniatures would be perfect for it. I think they'd be absolutely amazing for it. Because I think we would look at it in conjunction with Bronze Age miniatures. I think it was at the time, who did all the miniatures for the rulebook and things. But yeah, these would be amazing. I love the larger than life scale gods and that kind of thing as well. I think it's a really neat sort of addition, and it means that if you were going to do something a little bit more sort of over the top, as these are, you can actually have that as like a unit in of itself on the tabletop, and you'd be like, no, yeah, here's my lord. He's freaking huge. He's Thor about to bring down thunder and lightning on the tabletop. Very cool indeed.
Incredible.
Stunning miniatures. I would love to see people paint these in this style as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because obviously these are renders. But I'd love to see people actually put these together and paint them in this way with like marble bodies and then
that porcelain look is amazing.
I love that. Yeah.
I think it would be really, really cool and a very dynamic army to see on the tabletop. But yeah,
that's theoretically easy to paint.
Theoretically.
I do you know what? I thought that, and then the more I look at it, the more I think to myself, I'm not so sure, but I would love to give it a go.
Key is being neat, because the minute you splash, you're in trouble.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I found that with contrast paints, painting Iand and Eldar, but we'll talk about that on Sunday. But yeah, very awesome. Love the look of them all. I think it's a great thing for people to dive into at a relatively cheap cost as well when you think about it, because you're just paying for that one subscription, that lead subscription every month, and you get all of those miniatures to print off at home. If you have access to a 3D printer, maybe as a friend who has a shed that has a 3D printer in it, these would be pretty awesome for you to
hobby sheds for the win.
And use these. All of it's available over on their Patreon, so you can go and check it out here as Jerry's looking at it now. But they also have their own website, which is ragingheroes.com, where they have all of their existing range. Like they do some amazing sci-fi and fantasy stuff for like Battle Sisters. So they've done some really good stuff recently over there. But yeah, these guys have been doing their Patreon for a very long time now. So just over a year and a half, I think now.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, they've also built up, and we say this most of the time when we talk about these, that they've built up quite a good community of people on Facebook. So if you're worried about approaching printing any of those because they look quite daunting, they've got lots of people who have been 3D printing these things every month for about a year and a half. So they are very up on exactly what you need to do when it comes to the techniques of it all. So,
and I think on a variety of printers as well, and different.
Yes.
Because I've often seen people going, I'm printing on a Anycubic, that's the thing, isn't it? An Anycubic, and then it's not working, and you almost immediately will get somebody coming back in going, "Oh, I've printed mine on the exact same model. Here's what you do." So it's handy to have that. It's also a good way to get them cheap, because I think they say it's about 60% of the price that they'll charge when they go to retail on My Mini Factory, and then if you don't have a 3D printer, you're looking sort of months down the line, a limited amount of them will come out as casts, but then that is limited based on physical technology. So you're never going to see some of the big centerpieces, the toenail boat or Odin's drinking halls. They're unfeasible to actually manufacture. So if you're after things like that, it's probably the best way to get them.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Shall we take a look at some Kickstarters?
We shall.
Yeah.
So the first of these that we're going to be looking at is a little bit Oldhammer. I'm sure Jerry has waxed lyrical about these guys many a time, but we're looking at Tim Prow, who's back with Die Hard Miniatures and Chaos Incursion 2.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's the 90s follow-up to the 80s classic now. So this is a new set of fantasy and sci-fi miniatures for you to use in your slightly more corrupted, chaotic warbands and armies maybe on the tabletop. As you can see by some of the images here, very much inspired by, it's Tim Prow. They are Oldhammer miniatures that are for use on the tabletop, taking a lot of the cues from sort of what we would have seen back in sort of like the 80s and 90s when it came to miniature design. And there is a bunch of new models, as you can see here, that have been put together. Yep, especially that guy that have been put together for you to use building your fantasy warbands, or maybe your sci-fi crews. I would imagine it's no accident that this came out a couple of weeks after Stargrave hit retail, because you could use these to make up your own sort of chaotic crew on the tabletop. You also got those lovely little familiars. I love the little tiny mini Sith. I think that's gorgeous.
Mini Sith's nice. I like the one drinking.
Coffee, morning coffee Yoda.
2 hands.
And I do know he has a little alternative head as well, because there should be one coming to me, because I bought it a couple of weeks ago.
Of course. But yeah, you could also use them maybe as like pirates and raiders in your games of Stargrave if you've wanted to as well, because I'd love the idea of like a crew of the damned hunting down your different gangs in Stargrave. I think that'd be really awesome. But the core of those models that you saw above are more or less kind of like the central feature of this, but they have also got plans to unlock a lot more as the campaign goes on. They're going to be adding loads of additional... there you go. He's so adorable,
isn't he?
Oh, look!
I really like the little tiny mech suit as well. I think that's just amazing, because there's probably like a little tiny dude who's like, I want to fight with you guys. Okay, we'll make you a suit.
I love that it says goblin head.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Oh yeah,
goblin. Yeah.
It's only because nobody knows what Baby Yoda really is.
Exactly, true. Yeah. But yeah, so a lot of their snake range and a lot of their chaos warriors and that kind of thing have been added in here as well. So if you've not looked at their web store previous to this, you can go and check out a lot of the stuff in here and use this to bulk up your order and that kind of thing, and buy not just the new miniatures but some of the old ones as well. They also have a couple of unlockables that are going to be coming up as things go on as well. So some amazing artwork, as you can see, that's going to be turned into wonderful miniatures, no doubt, going forward. Die Hard recently, well, I say recently, last year, as kind of like the Mandalorian was back, did some really fun miniatures that were not Mandalorians, done in an Oldhammer sci-fi style, which are really cool. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, they've got those as well. It
will not surprise you. That is why I'm getting the small, not Baby Yoda.
Yes.
Because I felt I needed them in my life.
The Erokin, which is the one you see there, and we have looked at them previously in an Indie of the Week, are very much their kind of signature range, I'd say, which is kind of like sci-fi / fantasy lizard men snake people that kind of cross the bounds between the two genres. They're going to be expanded on, as you can see here as well, which is really cool. And I'd love to see people making full warbands out of these things to use in their games. I think that'd be really great. But yeah, Die Hard miniatures and Tim Prow doing excellent Oldhammer work once again.
Yeah, and the fact that they blend between fantasy and sci-fi is perfect, because even if you don't play one, chances are you'll find something for the other. Yes. I was talking to somebody in the community earlier on today about the Sylph for the Drukhari, because there's not many miniatures for them. In fact, I think there's only one.
And you can also only buy that one in Finecast.
Yeah. So they've been kept bashing using other bits and pieces to try and make them, whereas here there's essentially an entire range of Sylph. If you want a set of bodyguards for your Archon, then it's a great way to get them.
13 days left to jump on that one, folks. So if you want a bit of Oldhammer in your life, this is the Kickstarter for you. What's next then?
I don't think there's a week that goes by where I'm not attracted to another game with animals in it, but here we go. Isle of Cats is up on Kickstarter again. So both the base game and the expansions to help you crazy cat people out there save literally all the cats, and I mean all of the cats. So after the first campaign was really, really successful, I didn't get the chance to pick up this game the first time around, and I'm certainly tempted by this one.
So adorable.
Oh, I know, it's just so cute. So players just need to draft cards and place cats around the board for strategy, and they need to match families of cats together by colour on a boat and shun them off of the Isle of Cats. The aim of the game is to rescue as many cats as you possibly can before their home gets destroyed, and I think that's just...
This sounds amazing.
Do you think that there's any possibility that they could create an alternative version where I just get to destroy cats?
Well, yeah, that's what it is. That's why they're moving the cats, because someone's coming to destroy the island. So maybe
Warren.
You Warren.
Yeah. So,
That
okay.
makes sense.
So give me more powers. Give me the ability to destroy even more of them. You know, I'm not a cat guy.
I just am an animal person, so this is right up my street. But you've got to keep the families of cats together. So when I think of a boat and keeping people together, I do think of Titanic and about putting people on a boat. So no, this is not a rendition of Titanic at all. But I would pay to see that. But players would go in and rescue a plethora of animals in the new expansions as well, whilst handling different resources, adventuring to different parts of the island to rescue all of the cats and accumulate treasures and gnome issues. What's that?
Did I see a turtle or a tortoise?
There's a turtle. There is turtle.
If there's turtles and tortoise, I'll save them. I'll save them.
It
I have
really
a thing.
is.
Yep, I'm happy with a turtle or a tortoise. But do you see cat? Do you see even walking on a boat with that many cats and them all winking at you?
Yeah.
And it's like,
The problem there, Warren, is they'll very quickly realize that you don't like them, and then at some point you'll get pushed overboard.
You will get pushed overboard, yeah.
But the turtles and the tortoise will come to my rescue, Jerry.
I mean, Warren's the turtle guy. You're the squirrel guy, Jerry. Ben's the badger guy, and I love penguins. So I think we've got a full-rounded team here, to be honest.
Happy day.
We're actually a cast of villains in the Batman universe.
We really are. But what you've got to do is just accumulate treasures, rescue cats, undergo missions from a particular character called Oshak. So not only can you get your hands on the base game in this campaign, but you can pick up a few new expansions to shake up the catastrophe. I had to say it. But new expansions add more diversity on the ship, so you get more space and variations, and you've obviously got your boardies with cats, kittens, and beasts all wanting in on a slice of the action. So there's new modules to be added in the game, and lots of new upgrades to make sure there is happiness on the boat. But obviously Warren won't be very happy on the boat because there's loads of
That's interesting.
I just kick off the cats.
Apart from the Explore and Draw version. Roll and write bit. It says there comes with support for remote play. So you can play over the internet with people and custom mode as well.
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Nice.
Pretty cool. Yeah, but there's a few different pledges available if you do want to get involved. There's a new arrival pledge. So if you're just new to the Isle of Cats, you can get started from the beginning by getting the base game. But there's also a veteran pledge as well if you're just looking to dip into the expansions as well. So they have completely got you covered. There's some adorable pins on there as stretch goals and stuff like that. So the Kickstarter's got 20 days left.
I will say the art direction's lovely. And
it's beautiful.
I love how we started the show talking about hell, demons, and the war for the souls of a million creatures, and now we're looking at lovely, adorable.
And look at all the cats.
Are they one and the same? Are they? Yeah.
It's called bookending.
20 days
20 days
left on that one, guy.
So check it out. Do check out the different levels of pledges.
More tortoise.
And a tortoise. Don't forget about those.
Well, that about wraps us up for another week of news and gaming. Like I said, we will be away for the next 2 weeks. But when we come back, we'll be having a look at the Spring Clean Challenge. So, folks, if you haven't already joined in, or if you just want to explore what other people have been doing, come over to OnTableTop.com and check out the project system there. If you want to be in with a chance to win that starter set, then don't forget to leave your comment and your likes below. And also don't forget to be a subscriber, because we check. And then I have to pick somebody else, and it's a pain in my backside. Just saying, I'm lazy. If I can do it once, I'd much prefer to. So, thank you very much, Ben, Free, and Warren. Thank you guys at home, and we will see you on Sunday if you're a cult member. And if you're not, come over and register for a 30-day trial, and you can see us waffling on about our hobby and yours on Sunday morning. So until then, bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.